Welcome to the Luna Holistic Podcast. I'm your host, Geneva Robbins, and every month on this podcast, we'll talk about Reiki, as well as answering your questions on all things spiritual. We are gratefully located in Calgary in Treaty 7 territory. Thank you all and welcome to the show. Hello and welcome to the Luna Holistic Podcast. I'm Geneva Robbins, your host today, and today I have with me Angela Hokoveen. Say hi, Angela.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hi. Thanks for joining me. I love the topic that we're going to discuss today. Two things can be true at the same time. Two things can be true. It seems like a really simple concept or turnaround, but as we were chatting before we pressed record, we spent an hour talking about how all of the ways how we can get stuck in this sort of emotional complexity. And we've brainstormed a few ways to help you get out. So if you are struggling with feeling sad and happy at the same time, welcome to the club. So before we jump into that, let's do our collective breath of gratitude, our little mini meditation. You can take a few moments to take a few gentle sighs of relief, letting everything settle through your body, connecting you to the earth. Just letting go of any of the static or noise, any pressure to feel one way or the other, and just become curious about how you're honestly feeling right now. It could be a mix or a blend of things. Just bringing some comfort and space for whatever is present right now. Beautiful. And then notice the energy deep within the earth and the life that surrounds you in this moment. And that gentle space of all of the living beings that share your neighborhood. The plants and trees, the creatures and birds, the other people. Notice the flow of water either over land or within the ground. Just noticing the energy of life that you're a part of. And just take a big sigh of relief into this energy with a gentle feeling of gratitude for all of that creation. And notice that gratitude for you flowing back exactly where and how you're feeling right now. There's a wave of gratitude and love coming straight from the earth, straight from source, unconditionally loving and supporting you exactly as you are in this moment. Let's take another big sigh of relief. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Sweet. How'd that go for you, Angela?
Really nice. Yeah, feeling the gratitude from source and from Mother Earth. I just felt a wave of gratitude coming towards me, and it was just lovely. It was so
Right?
nice. It was.
Yeah, it's like a cheat code if you're not feeling grateful. It's okay. There are people, there are energies that are grateful for you. And it's unconditional gratitude, which is just like they're just happy you exist, happy you're there, happy you're breathing. And there's nothing you need to do to earn that gratitude. You just receive it, This just happens because of your nature. And I had read that gratitude journaling is fantastic, but also making note of when people express, like really receiving the gratitude that comes your way. So when people express their gratitude, even if it's just like you held the door open for somebody and they said thanks, like receive that. That's a genuine expression of gratitude. And when you let those little moments in, it kind of lighten things a little bit. So,
Right. And I think that's where so many of us struggle is,
right.
it's so easy to do all the things for all people and it feels good, but then to receive that love and gratitude back, that can be tricky sometimes.
It can be tricky, but you know, Angela, someone really smart just recently told me two things can be true at the same time. I believe it was you.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Look at that. Here it is again. I would love for you to share. This has been a theme that's come up in your Reiki sessions with people at Luna Holistic here, of it just being really common for people to feel both happy, like having sources of happiness and joy in their life, and also things that they're really, really struggling with and struggling that they're struggling. You want to talk more about
Exactly.
that?
At Luna, and just, in my private life, just that notion of two things can be true at the same time, really, I have found life changing for people where they have so many things that they are grateful for, but then they have a number of things that they're struggling with and are not going the way they would like them to go. And then they have this whole mix of feelings. And mainly, I find a lot of guilt for having those struggles and not being happy in a certain way because they have so many things to be grateful for. So then
Mhm.
there's the guilt. Why am I feeling bad? I should be happy, but I'm not happy. And when you just say that, well, two things can be true at the same time. You can be grateful everything you have and appreciate everything, but still be struggling over here on this side.
Mhm.
So I think saying that gives people permission to have those two maybe contradictory feelings at the same time.
Yeah. It sounds like the issue isn't that they have the feeling about the aspects of life that they're struggling with. It's that they're not feeling like they're allowed to feel it. And then when you say two things can be true, you can feel grateful and joyous on one hand, and also really upset about these other things. And that emotional complexity, like that you're upset, doesn't cancel out or negate your joy. The joy and happiness is there too. To me, it's almost like the more we try to suppress or push away a feeling, and we can push away the negative feelings, but we can also push away the positive feelings. It's like, I'm not allowed to feel
Mhm.
joyful because everyone else around me is devastated. So I can't feel happy because my happiness is like pissing people off, And then they keep saying,
Mhm.
"What do must be nice. Why are you so happy?" And then you
Yeah.
don't get a chance to celebrate your joys. So you can't laugh and enjoy life. You also can't cry. And it's almost like we start living within these narrower and narrower bands of what is an acceptable emotional range of expression. And if you get too high or too low, then you get excluded, or
Mhm.
and most of the time it's not anybody around us telling us, I think most of the time we don't have somebody directly saying you can't feel this way. Uh, but it's just in our culture, as some cultures get a bigger wallop of composure. You have to be composed, right? Like you can feel
Mhm.
sad, but just do pretty cry, not wailing, can't catch your breath. anguish cry. That is not
Mhm.
okay. And of course, we have to regulate. And, it's nice to be able to get through a grocery shopping trip without, without like wailing in the aisles like a toddler, you know. Although, stranger things have happened. Every once in a while, the emotion just like bubbles up and overflows. And for me, it's like the emotion isn't the problem. It is the suppression around the emotion, or that we aren't allowed to feel it completely. And it's not even about like the expression, it's like you don't have to cry to feel the sadness. So it's like you just feel the sensations of whatever it is, like the tightness in the chest or the heaviness or the weight, of that sadness or grief. And what I've found, because I've had sort of this complex grief over this year of having many members of my family pass away and sort of the layers of complexity of all of that energy means that I'm often feeling sad for extended periods of time. And what I was noticing is that if I suppressed that feeling for too long or like overly regulated myself without letting myself feel the emotion, I would start to feel anxious. The intensity of the emotion would just flip into anxiety. So I get myself into a safe place where I can feel and I can express and I can just let her rip, being around people who love me enough where I can lose my cool. I can lose my composure. I don't have to be all put together like I am now. Look how good I'm doing. Um, you know, but it's like the only way you can actually function and move through some of the intensity that life throws your way is to just let yourself actually feel it and to have those safe places and permission to feel both, and also sort of like taking the cap off of the joy as well, like letting that run high. That was something that came up recently where I was practicing grounding with a group of Reiki students, and we were doing lots of grounding exercises. And what was interesting is that I started feeling like excitement while I was grounding, and I felt very grounded. Uh, I was like, oh, how interesting. Like, I can feel really grounded and excited. And that excitement isn't the opposite of grounding and being centered. You can be grounded and centered and excited at the same time. So it's like, these seem like sometimes we put things on a spectrum or we think about these sort of opposites, but what if they're all like keys on a piano? They're all just different notes that we can play. And depending on what's happening in our life, it might be a really full sounding piano concerto of emotions.
Mhm.
And instead of judging or labeling or suppressing one emotion or the extremes of the emotions, like never playing the high keys and never playing the low keys, right? It's like we can only play the five keys in the middle now, make a song, make a life with only this emotional range.
Mhm.
And if you are a strong feeler, it's like you have to use all of those keys because in order to create, in order to help, in order to heal and help other people with their healing, you have to be able to at least understand the full spectrum of human experience without any shame.
Well, I think that's it. It's the shame and the guilt
Yeah.
where, again, oh, I shouldn't be sad because everything's so great. Or, for example, like say someone just had a parent pass away. And so they should be in grief. And oh my God, I was laughing the other day. That how dare I be happy when I should be
Mhm.
in grief? So it's that judgment of like you said, that wide range of feelings and emotions that we all have. But then there's that shame and judgment of ourselves for
Mhm.
maybe feeling one extreme or the other extreme. Like you said, it's safe and acceptable to kind of be in the middle and have those feelings. And it is very complex and confusing. And I think it comes down to, yeah, guilt and shame.
Yeah. I find is like as soon as I take that pressure off, that shame sort of cages our emotions. So then you have the feeling plus the pressure. It becomes more and more intense. So if I'm feeling sad and I try to not feel sad because I should be feeling happy because happy things are occurring right now, then the sadness just digs in its heels and gets worse and worse and worse. But if I just go, oh, okay, I guess this sadness is here. I'm just going to make space for this feeling. Going to label it. I'm going to
Hmm.
understand it. I'm doing a little check to make sure it's my own feeling and not other people's feelings. And then I'm gonna kind of like release it and just let it have space, so I don't have to push it around. I can just let it be. And sometimes that sadness turns to tears, and sometimes it just turns to like a softer, more mellow, sort of like taking things out of the pressure cooker. It's like, oh, it just can have space.
Hmm.
It can have space and it can be a companion along the way.
That's because you give yourself permission to
Mhm,
feel all of the things. So many people don't understand that. And again, they have the guilt for, oh, I should be feeling this way, but I'm not. I was speaking
mhm,
to someone where they had a neighbor they were friends with, and this neighbor loved to travel. And this person was like, my neighbor's great. I love her, but I really don't like traveling with her. We just travel different. But then she had so much guilt about not wanting to travel with her neighbor and feeling frustrated with her neighbor because her neighbor was so lovely. And that was the
mhm,
one time I'm like, but two things can be true at the same time. You cannot want to travel with her just because we all travel different. We all like to do different things, and you can be frustrated, but still know that she's a lovely, kind hearted person, giving yourself permission to feel all of the feelings at the same time. But I think that's so hard for people because that
mhm.
person in particular had so much guilt. Oh my gosh, I should be grateful for her because she wants to travel with me and she wants to hang out with me. And but then I get frustrated and then I get annoyed. And then
Mhm.
it turned into I'm such a bad person. I am, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
how can I feel this way?
yeah,
So
yeah,
it gets
and it's
very
the
complicated.
it gets complicated, but if we give ourselves that pause to just feel what we feel honestly, we don't shame ourselves, we don't shame the other person, right? We just, like, see it as it just exists. It just gets to be. And in that space, it gets to move. I think of it as like the oxygen can get to it, your breath can get to it. We were talking before about this like metaphor of like emotions are like the clouds in the sky. And even if it's cloudy for multiple days, it's never the same clouds because the air is always moving them. And it's impossible for them to stay put, and they won't ever stay put for long, right? Like it's in the nature of emotions to move through. It's energy and motion, and they change with our breath, they change with going to bed on time, having a snack, getting outside in nature, getting some exercise. They change with creativity. So just get yourself making something. Don't try to solve the problem. Just like, make a meal and, do the dishes or, attend to the rhythms of life. Like let it go for a little bit and do some real work, some move some physical objects around your home. And what happens is that it puts us back into this sort of spatial place where we don't have to be so intense about things. We don't have to try to pressure ourselves one way or another, but we kind of make space for all of the emotions. And there could be, 100 different emotions. Some of them are more comfortable and maybe more acceptable in certain circumstances. And, how we're expressing them and that is like I think when we give ourselves space to feel, like you just take yourself away from everyone else and give yourself permission on your own to feel what you want to feel, then you can kind of get this energy flowing in around all of that emotion. And then it can shift and lighten, and you can kind of sort things out a little bit. One of the books that I like to recommend to people, because there's a bit of like, how is it possible that I can feel happy and sad? Why is there's this like happy sadness happening at the same time? Or I'm feeling strong joy and strong grief at the same moment. How is it even possible to like hold this complexity without like feeling like we're going to just blow apart at the seams? And one of the books I love is called Whole Brain Living by Jill Bolte Taylor. She is a neuroanatomist and she had a stroke many years ago that affected only the left side of her brain. So it left her right side of her brain intact. And because she was a brain researcher, she was fascinated at what was happening with her brain as she was having a stroke. And so she's got a TED talk called My Stroke of Insight. And she has a book of the same name. But her other book, Whole Brain Living, is really interesting because she had to heal from her stroke and regain a bunch of abilities. But one thing that happened is that when her left brain went offline, she went into this spacious, interconnected energy where everything was one and she was part of everything. And really like a spiritual, mystical experience of being able to understand energy and love and connection in a much deeper way. And with whole brain living, she talks about these four characters of the brain, and she just calls them one, two, three, four, because she wants you to name your own different characters. So your left brain, cognitive, so right behind your forehead, that part of your brain is sort of your organizer. So it helps you with your taxes and understanding speech and language and sort of is our taskmaster. So it's the part that can think its way through problems, but left unchecked, it can also create more problems than it solves. So that's the part that can ruminate on what is that person thinking and what are they feeling and what is happening here and is it okay? That's the part that will try to suppress our emotions to try to get things done or make us fit in with other people. That left cognitive character one. Character two, left brain emotional, is basically our little fear center. So it's like your amygdala in your brain. It's at the back of your head and at the base of your brain. And its job is to always search for danger. Everything's in danger. Everyone I love is in danger. This person's going to kill me. This situation is dangerous. So it's the fight or flight part of us. And so if those two left sides of the brain start talking to each other, there's a scary emotion. And then the left brain that's in charge starts trying to manage and control that emotion and come up with a story for the feeling. And it'll send a scary story to that little scaredy cat character, too, that's always afraid of everything. And it will believe whatever that left cognitive side says. Character one. Character two will just always believe character one and freak out and send fear hormones racing through your body. And so then you can get into this loop and this spiral. But if we switch into the right hemisphere, it also thinks, but it thinks and feels in a different way. So, character 3 is the right brain emotional, so the right amygdala. And character three's job is curiosity, play, fun. It's sort of like the hunter, whereas character two is like the prey. Everything's going to eat me. Character three is like, what can I eat? Mwahaha. And so character three is like curiosity, is like, ooh, that's interesting. How does that thing work? Like, oh, there's a bunch of switches and knobs and dials on that thing. How can we play around with it? It's inventive, it's creative, it wants to understand. It's like when faced with something new, character three will go, ooh, let's poke it and see what it is and see what it does. Character two will be like, let's run away. You know, and character one will be like, what do I need to do in order to fix and solve problems? Because it wants to solve problems. So they're all good. They're all important parts of us. And then character four, which is the right brain cognitive side. So our prefrontal cortex on the right brain side. And that character is like our soul self. It is the part of us that understands that we're connected to everything. It understands that everything is connected to us. It understands patterns and can see the bigger picture. So that part is connected to love and empathy and generosity and the sort of spacious and expanded experience of that there's something greater and something more than all of the separate things. And when we're in that part, both the right sides of the brain, character three and character four, don't have the capacity to worry because they're not in time. They're just in the present moment. They're just living in the present moment. Whereas the left side of the brain is locked in time. It's thinking about now, it's thinking about the past, it's thinking about the future, it's analyzing, it's trying to figure out and problem solve, which is all great. We want that. And we also want the part of us that's scanning for danger. We don't want that to go offline. We want it to, say, ooh, ooh, there's an edge over there. Don't step off of it. Right. Like, but we don't need to go around being terrified of stepping off of cliffs all the time. Right. We don't need that level of energy in our body. We only need the signal for when it's real, not when we're being fed a story from the other character. you know, we have these sort of four distinct personalities that are all parts of us and they're all talking at once, but sometimes one or two will become more dominant. In order to have this sort of whole brain living, we need to have the other characters chime in and give their insight and awareness about, who we are, what we want to do, and to make courageous steps forward and not being afraid of change and not being afraid of feelings, right? So if you think of like character four, it's like, let her rip, feel how you feel. Right? It's like feelings are totally okay. Like, in the character three, you'll be like, feelings are great. How interesting. Like, I like how I feel after I have a big cry, right? Like, it won't hold back. And it also doesn't hold on because they're both sort of timeless and free in a way of just experiencing the emotion fully when it arrives, and then when you're in a new moment, you'll experience that emotion fully when it arrives. And you can't sort of pre feel things. It's like you can only feel in the moment that your heart beats in. And so when we are able to sort of shift into those other centers, then we get a better perspective on, oh, maybe my brain's just trying to scare me. Maybe it's concocting a story about the situation that isn't actually real. So sifting and sorting, like, is this, it's creating an emotion, but is this an emotion that is useful? Like anger is a useful emotion when our survival's on the line. When we need to take an action and set a boundary, we should feel angry so that we can protect ourselves and we can protect our vulnerable people around us. Anger is a natural, normal response to a boundary being crossed or a threat to our safety. And when the threat is gone, it needs to drop because it's only a brief little flash in the pan. And so when we take all of our emotions out of pressure, and then also understand that just within our cranium, not to mention all of our spiritual energy, uh, we have these four personalities and maybe more, right? Like she only talked about four, but could have more. And they have a completely different worldview of what's happening in the situation. And this idea of like maybe get input from the others. So if you're locked in a worry loop or shame spiral, that sounds like left side because it's thinking about other people's thinking, it's thinking about past and future. So it's like, how do you get into that right side, right mode of the brain? You can switch into curiosity, you can switch into creativity, into things that draw you into spatial relationships. So that's why exercise or playing a game is really good. Like tossing a ball back and forth might help you solve more problems than trying to think it your way through because you're activating the creative centers in your brain. You basically are getting a different perspective. And what's neat is that you have that sort of like wise guide or this sort of kind, loving guru living right inside of you all of the time. It's just right there. And it's just a matter of like, going into that spacious, non judgmental, loving energy. And when you're in that spacious, non judgmental, loving energy, then you're not, that part doesn't ever judge you for anything. It's just like, oh, neat. That's a feeling. That's an experience. That's a thought. It's like, is
Mhm.
it useful? Does it get to, if it's useful, it gets to stay. If it isn't useful, then it can move on. And so it's like when we use our whole brain to understand, then there's a real peace that can drop in. And so then, of course, two things can be true at the same time. And based on that book, as likely as four things that are true at the same
Mm.
time. You can sort of like explore like how does each of your four characters, activate and what makes them settle. And so she's like, if you have two people in a relationship, there's actually eight characters. Oh, each of those parts of you will talk to the other person's parts. And so you want to make sure that you're in the lovey-dovey side if you want to get anything
Yeah.
done. If your fear is talking to the other person's fear and worry, then it's like you can't get very far
Mm.
because you both can like whip each other up rather than calm each other down.
Fascinating.
Isn't it so
Yeah.
cool? And it's
Um,
like brain science. I like it because it's like makes sense for Reiki and meditation, and also that's our brains. So
Interesting how we're so complicated as humans.
mhm.
And I think just that alone, understanding everything that you just said, I think that alone should give us permission to, yeah, feel all the things, feel all the feelings, and not feel bad because we might have these negative, not so nice feelings or thoughts or emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like as soon as you give the feeling permission to be there and let yourself feel it, then it doesn't stay as long and it's not as disruptive. It seems counterintuitive because you're like, well, if I let myself feel my sadness, then I'll just be crying all of the time. I'm like, Yeah, maybe for like 5 days in a row. Like, if you need to cry that much, then you need to cry that much, you know? And even within that, there'll be moments where you don't, right? Like, there'll be moments of a pause or reprieve, And I always think, like, when things are active, life is loud, that's the time for it. It's like when it's really present and being present with whatever you're in. Like, every time I make space for the whatever complexity of feeling, it causes me less grief overall. Like, it causes less turbulence. As soon as I think, "Oh, I don't want," I notice, like, how sad I am, and the part of it that disturbs me is that my face looks sad. It's like, "Why does that bother me?" "Oh, because other people might notice how sad I am."
Whoa.
And then if they don't have a good filter, or they don't have a good aura bubble, then my sadness might impact them negatively, so then I'm trying to like control my feeling so then I don't like, get my sadness on other people. And that's just like old programming, right? From our culture, from all kinds of sources of what's an okay feeling to feel and what's not an okay feeling to express, and what settings you're allowed to feel these things. And there can be, depending on your family and your culture and stuff, there can be really strict rules about, what feelings you're allowed to feel when and how much you're allowed to feel them. And maybe there's like, okay, now it's been so many months since this event happened. And so now you have to stop feeling and you have to move on. And to me, that energy makes it worse, not better. Of like, then as soon as you have a strong emotion and you don't have permission to feel it, it just gets aggravated. Now, you still want to examine the causes of that feeling to make sure that they're coming from a valid place for yourself, right? Is like, even just like sometimes there'll be something that upsets us, but it's a surface upset, right? Like we're worried about a wrinkle in the carpet, right? And it's not actually that thing that's the bother. It's that, maybe it triggers anxiety about money. Maybe it is used to be somebody else's responsibility. Maybe, that person isn't here or whatever it is, right? So it's actually not about the thing at all that was the initial spark of the emotion, but there might be layers of emotion underneath that primary emotion. But if we never let ourselves feel it at all, or we distract and avoid and numb and go to substances or behaviors to like try to annihilate our feelings, then they just don't go anywhere, they just get put on pause. We slam the lid on top of the feelings, and then they just get worse. But what I love about Reiki, our little plug for Reiki this time, but really, like, what I love about Reiki and what has been an anchor through this very hard year for me, has been how it makes the space for the emotion, and it also helps transform it. So it
Whoa.
moves it to another place without suppressing it, without pushing or pulling it. It brings in this sort of infinite patience and compassion for whatever the hurt is. And then it brings in love and kindness and gentleness and support and soothing. And the feelings can be comforted. So we take care of the anger, we take care of the grief, we take care of the sadness. And we don't ask any of those things to leave before their time, before they're due. But also, as soon as the emotion is completed, it doesn't need to stay. It can transform, it can lift, it can lighten. And so a lot of that, like really heavy stuff, can start lifting and it doesn't need to stay stuck, it can actually transform. And when it transforms, there's this like beautiful, joyous, connected energy that's below it. But if we try to push ourselves there or race to we always set a positive intention of like kind of where you want to land, but we also have infinite surrender and patience to that process. So we're not pushing or pulling you to feel any different than what you're genuinely feeling, but we are also opening up a gentle, comforting space that those distressing feelings don't have to stay longer than they're due, right? It's like you can feel them, they can be completed, they can be honored and acknowledged, and then it can move into something new and maybe something lighter and more spacious and more joyful, but it's also 100% okay if it doesn't. And many times it's like it just is support for whatever you're experiencing and giving you that comfort and that permission to just sort of explore that like amazing depth of feeling. It's like even just that of like, can you activate your curiosity about like, how is it possible that I can feel like joy and love and happiness and also like frustration and rage and grief about the same event, about the same thing, about different parts of our lives? How can we hold these two opposite feelings? It's like, well, they just get to be there like, many little beings. You just make more space for the feeling and stop excluding the feeling, kind of like the Disney movie Inside Out, right? It's like if we try to suppress or deny a feeling, it just takes over and it causes more disruption to not acknowledge a genuine feeling than to just like make a gentle space by the campfire and let it express itself and let its needs be acknowledged. It's like, is there a need that needs to be cared for? But yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I've
Oh,
got.
that's a mic drop, Geneva.
Yay.
No, it's so good. And it's also true that, yeah, I think so many of us have a fear of the feelings, well, which goes back to the judgment and the shame. And, as a society, often we're told, don't cry, shove it down, don't feel it, just be
Mhm.
stoic. And it's great the last number of years how mainstream energy has come, and you see so many good vibes only and
Mhm.
high energy or whatever, which is again great. But two things can be true at the same time, where I think a lot of people are maybe too focused on that, where again, they're
Mm.
ignoring the
Yep.
opposite feelings, the maybe quote unquote negative feelings. And no, you only focus on the good vibes and feeling good and being happy and being positive.
Yep.
But again, that doesn't necessarily negate all the other feelings. I think what you said is so important. It's that compassion, having compassion for yourself, for those feelings. And it does feel very counterintuitive, but I have found when I have compassion for myself, then I am, as you say, able to move through the feelings so
Mhm.
much easier and quicker
Yeah. And I
rather
would
than trying to shove it down.
yeah. And I wonder if like the good vibes only is just a pendulum swing for people who have been in a society or a family structure where joy was suppressed.
Mm,
Right? So then they're swinging to joy because they just were raised in criticism, you know? And then so they
yeah.
need that energy, but it's only half of it. And to me, like there's a gentle, spacious energy that gets released when we just creating a space for it to honestly feel what we're feeling in this moment. No
Mm,
other moment. So we're not going to spend time feeling about how we're going to feel tomorrow or 3 years from now. And we're not going to spend any time feeling about how we felt in the past, but like right now, in this second, what's happening here? What's happening in this breath? And also in your own body, in your own energy field. So, not what other people are feeling. So, if they are upset, let them be upset, give them space to be upset, and then come back to like, and how are you feeling? It's like, and you might be upset that they're upset, and it's upset inception, right? But one thing that has helped me a ton is like with Reiki, we spend a lot of time with grounding and the aura. So we're in our own energy bubble. And so that also really helps because then you have space to, you can take up space and other people can take up space. And when we have a strong aura or strong energy boundaries, then you can be standing right next to somebody who it's their worst day and still be compassionate without shutting down their feeling or their emotional expression. And if they're tending to their aura, they can also hold space for your joy in the same moment. And those are two emotionally and energetically evolved people. That's sort of, the ideal is to be able to one person to be in a strong state of joy and another person to be in a strong state of grief. And there's no conflict. And they're not trying to annoy the other person to change how they're feeling to match how I'm feeling so then I can feel good. So I'm not going to demand anything of you to change so that I can feel good. However, I want to feel, whatever I'm feeling is my business. And I'm not going to make it anybody else's business. I'm in charge of my thoughts, my feelings, my actions, and my energy. And so I'm going to take charge of that and I'm going to leave everybody else alone. I'm going to do my own work. If in doubt, do my own work, wash, rinse, repeat, and then allow other people this space and grace to feel what they're feeling, to go what they're going through, even if you disagree, even if you wish that they would make different choices, that they would feel differently about situations, things that you don't understand. It's like, I don't understand why this is such a big deal. It's like, yeah, right. You don't understand it. So you could ask questions instead of trying to like manipulate, and for me, it's like so much more respectful when I'm grounded and I'm in my aura. I become respectful of other people's feelings and I don't try to change or manipulate or try to get a particular energy. I just allow the space to happen. So, yeah,
Oh,
yay.
we could do a whole other podcast, I think, just
Right?
on that topic of being triggered and understanding it's our own work. It might
Yeah.
be because of something the other person said, but it's not their responsibility to manage your emotions and your triggers. And
Yeah.
I mean, yes, of course, there's
Oh, there's so
boundaries,
many things.
but
It's a whole other
it's,
podcast. Stay
it
tuned, everybody.
is.
Yes. Yeah, I think, we've touched on that before, but yeah, maybe we come back to that next time. But for now, I just want to tell everybody listening, two things can be true at the same time. We want to talk forever, and also we probably have to go. Uh, Thank you so much, Angela, for being
Thank
here and
you.
contributing to this amazing topic. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you're struggling, reach out to support. You don't have to struggle alone. Sometimes you have to hire people who can hold space so you can not be composed, So therapy, fantastic. And so is Reiki and meditation and yoga and getting outside in the park, all of those great things. But yeah, we're here for you. And there's a bunch of meditations on the website. Check that out. And until next time, bye
Yeah,
bye.
bye. Bye bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Luna Holistic Podcast. We're so grateful that you are here. If you've got a question, we'd love to hear from you. Go to lunaholistic.com/podcast and we'll answer you in an upcoming episode. Be sure to subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And also please rate, because you never know where your little 5 stars will go to shine light into somebody's heart today. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.